My name is Harper, and I'm 32 years old. Right now, I'm standing in a courthouse hallway with my lawyer beside me while my sister Brielle glares at me from across the polished marble floor. She's 35, dressed in an expensive navy suit, and her eyes are filled with the kind of hatred I never imagined I'd see directed at me. My own sister is suing me for $375,000 because I refused to fund her Napa Valley wedding with our late mother's inheritance. 6 months ago, I held Mom's handwritten will in my trembling hands, and I thought grief was the hardest part of losing her. I was so wrong. Watching my sister transform into a monster who would destroy our family over money turned out to be infinitely worse than any grief I'd ever known. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a $75,000 wedding turned into a $500,000 lawsuit and destroyed everything our mother spent her lifetime building. Before I dive into this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. If you've ever dealt with family drama over money or inheritance, you're going to want to hear how this played out. Hit that like button if you're ready for some serious family chaos, and make sure you subscribe because this story has more twists than a Napa Valley vineyard. Trust me, you won't believe where this goes. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. Mom died on a Tuesday morning in March, 3 days before I'm standing at her funeral trying to hold myself together while my entire world crumbles around me. Shed had a massive heart attack at 64 years old, sudden and devastating, the kind of death that leaves you gasping for air because there was no warning, no chance to say goodbye, no final conversation where you tell her all the things you should have said years ago. I'd seen her just 2 days before, on Sunday afternoon when I brought her groceries and we'd watched old movies together on her worn couch, the same couch where I'd spent countless evenings over the past 3 years since Dad died. I visited Mom twice a week like clockwork, handled her medications, drove her to doctor appointments, fixed things around her house in suburban Sacramento, and listened to her stories about the neighborhood and her garden and the birds that visited her feeder every morning. Those moments felt ordinary then, routine even. But now they're precious memories I cling to when the grief threatens to pull me under completely. The funeral is held on a gray Friday afternoon at Riverside Memorial Chapel, and I arrive early to make sure everything is perfect because that's what Mom would have wanted. I've chosen her favorite flowers, made sure the photo display includes pictures from every era of her life, and written a eulogy that I'm not sure I'll be able to deliver without breaking down entirely. Brielle shows up 20 minutes late, which shouldn't surprise me but somehow still does, wearing a designer black dress that probably cost more than the entire funeral service, and talking on her phone about vendor deposits as she walks through the chapel doors. She glances at Mom's casket, dabs at her eyes with a tissue that never quite touches her perfect makeup, and then checks her watch 3 times during the service. I want to be angry, but mostly I just feel sad watching her go through the motions of grief without actually feeling any of it. After the service, about 40 people gather at Mom's house for the traditional post-funeral reception, and I've spent the morning preparing food and setting up tables in her backyard because staying busy keeps me from falling apart. Brielle arrives late again, spends most of her time on her phone in the corner, and leaves early, claiming she has an important meeting she can't miss. Once everyone else has gone and I'm alone in Mom's quiet house surrounded by casserole dishes and sympathy cards, I remember the safe in her bedroom closet. Mom was meticulous about organization, kept everything documented and filed, and Shed told me months ago that her will was in there, along with all her important papers. My hands shake as I turn the combination lock, and when I pull out the thick manila envelope with last will and testament written in Mom's distinctive handwriting across the front, I have to sit down on her bed because my legs won't hold me anymore. The will is handwritten, which Mom's lawyer later confirms is perfectly legal in California as long as it meets certain requirements, and Mom's meets all of them. Shed, written it 6 months before her death, had it witnessed by 2 neighbors, and the language is crystal clear. She left her house, worth approximately $750,000 according to the recent appraisal I find with the will, to me. Just me. The reason is stated plainly in her careful cursive writing. Harper has been my caretaker, my companion, and my devoted daughter. Brielle chose her own path, And while I love her, I must be practical about the future. Harper sacrificed her time, her energy, and her own life to care for me. She deserves security. There's a bequest to Brielle of $50,000 in cash from Mom's savings account, plus her entire jewelry collection, which includes some valuable pieces from Grandma and is worth at least $30,000. It's not nothing, but it's nowhere near equal to what I'm receiving, and I feel my stomach twist with an uncomfortable mixture of gratitude and guilt. I call Brielle that evening to tell her about the will because I want her to hear it from me, not from a lawyer or through some impersonal legal process. Her initial reaction is shocked, silence that stretches so long I think the call has dropped, and then she forces out a laugh that sounds brittle and fake. "Well," she says with an edge to her voice I've never heard before. "I guess Mom made her feelings pretty clear, didn't she?" I try to explain that Mom's decision was about practical matters, about recognizing the caregiving I'd provided, but Brielle cuts me off. "Well, talk about this later, Harper. Mom clearly wasn't thinking straight in her final months. Grief does strange things to people." The way she emphasizes those words sends a chill down my spine, and after she hangs up, I sit in Mom's kitchen for an hour, staring at the will and feeling the first seeds of dread taking root in my chest. 2 weeks crawl by in a fog of estate paperwork, cleaning out Mom's house, and trying to return to some semblance of normal life at my job as a marketing coordinator for a tech company in downtown Sacramento. I haven't heard from Brielle since that brief, tense phone call about the will, and I'm starting to think maybe she's accepted Mom's decision and we can move forward as sisters despite the inequality. Then, on a Wednesday evening, my phone rings with Brielle's name on the screen, and when I answer, her voice is suddenly sweet and warm, dripping with the kind of sisterly affection she hasn't shown me in years. "Harper, honey, I'm so sorry I've been distant," she begins, and I can practically hear the smile in her voice. "I've been processing everything, and I realize we need to stick together during this difficult time. We're all each other has now." She tells me about Preston, her boyfriend of 8 months who I've only met twice in passing, and how he proposed to her last week with a stunning 3-carat diamond ring she describes in excessive detail. "They're planning a wedding," she gushes. "A beautiful destination wedding in Napa Valley, at a vineyard estate she's been dreaming about since she was a little girl. The venue is spectacular," she says, "with rolling hills covered in grapevines, a historic stone villa for the ceremony, and accommodations for 75 guests over an entire weekend." She talks for 15 minutes about color schemes and flower arrangements and the chef-prepared menu and the live band she's already booked, and I'm genuinely happy for her because despite everything, she's still my sister and I want her to be happy. "It's going to cost about $75,000 total," she says casually, like she's talking about buying groceries instead of spending what most people make in a year on a single party. "But it's worth it, Harper. It's what Mom would have wanted, a beautiful family celebration to bring us together and help us heal from losing her." Then comes the pivot I should have seen coming but somehow didn't. "I was thinking," Brielle continues in that same sweet voice that now makes my skin crawl, "since you're getting the house and everything, maybe you could help me with the wedding costs. Just half would be perfect, $37,500. It's really the least you could do, considering how much you're inheriting. Mom would want us to share, to support each other, don't you think?" The request hits me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs and leaving me speechless for a long moment. When I finally find my voice, I try to be diplomatic, explaining that while I want to support her wedding, I can't afford to contribute that much money. I offer $5,000 as a generous gift, which is honestly more than I can comfortably spare given my own student loans and living expenses, but I want to show her I care. The temperature of her voice drops about 40 degrees in an instant. $5,000? Are you serious right now? "Harper, you're getting a house worth $750,000 and you can't spare $37,000 for your only sister's wedding." Her sweetness has evaporated completely, replaced by barely contained rage that makes her words sharp enough to cut. I try to explain that the house isn't liquid cash, that I'm planning to live in it, not sell it, that I have my own financial obligations and can't just write enormous checks on demand, This is unbelievable. She hisses into the phone. That house should be ours, Harper. Ours. Half and half. The way it should have been from the beginning. Mom was clearly manipulated in her final days. She wasn't thinking clearly. Anyone can see that. I feel my own anger rising now, pushing past the guilt and the desire to keep peace. Mom was perfectly clear-minded, I tell her firmly. She made her decision based on 3 years of watching me care for her, while you couldn't even be bothered to call her on her birthday. I was there, Brielle. Every doctor's appointment, every medication refill, every middle-of-the-night emergency. Where were you? The accusation hangs between us, heavy and undeniable, and I hear her sharp intake of breath. How dare you? She says, her voice trembling with fury. You isolated her from me. You turned her against her own daughter. You manipulated a sick old woman so you could steal everything for yourself. The unfairness of it, the complete rewriting of history, makes my vision blur with tears of frustration. That's not true and you know it, I say, but she's not listening anymore. You're selfish, Harper. You always have been. You act like this martyr who sacrificed so much, but really you just wanted to make sure you got everything when she died. Well, congratulations. I hope you enjoy your blood money. The call ends with her hanging up on me, and am left holding my phone and shaking with a combination of hurt and anger and disbelief. I immediately call my best friend Maya, who I've known since college, and who has been my rock through Mom's death. Maya listens to the entire story, and her response is immediate and clear. Harper, you need to document everything. Save every text, every email, every voicemail. This isn't over, and you need to protect yourself. I promise her I will, but deep down I still believe this is just temporary anger, that Brielle will cool down and realize she's being unreasonable, that we can eventually move past this. I'm so naive it's almost laughable, but I won't realize just how wrong I am until much later. 3 weeks after that disastrous phone call with Brielle, I'm at work trying to focus on a product launch campaign when my phone buzzes with a text from Aunt Lorraine, Mom's older sister who lives in Portland. Lorraine has always been kind to me, sending birthday cards and calling on holidays, and I expect her message to be some sort of condolence or check-in about how I'm handling Mom's death. Instead, what I read makes my blood run cold. I can't believe what Brielle told me about what you did. How could you steal from your own sister? Your mother would be ashamed. The text is followed by 3 more messages, each one more accusatory than the last, calling me greedy and manipulative and suggesting I should do the right thing before legal action becomes necessary. I read the messages 5 times, trying to make sense of them, trying to understand how Aunt Lorraine could possibly believe I've done something wrong. I call her immediately, my hands trembling as I pull up her contact, but the call goes straight to voicemail. I leave a confused message asking her to please call me back so I can explain what actually happened, but she never does. The next day, Uncle Frank shows up at my apartment unannounced, Mom's younger brother who I haven't seen in person in over a year, and the look on his face when I open the door tells me this isn't a friendly visit. He's a big man, 6 feet 3 inches tall with broad shoulders and a commanding presence, and right now he's using all of that physical intimidation to loom over me in my own doorway. We need to talk about what you're doing to Brielle, he says without preamble, pushing past me into my living room without waiting for an invitation. For the next 30 minutes, Frank lectures me about family loyalty and doing the right thing, insisting that I need to split everything equally with Brielle, because that's what siblings do. I'm so shocked by his hostility that at first I just stand there taking it, but eventually I find my voice and ask him what exactly Brielle told him. His version of events is so distorted it's almost unrecognizable as reality. According to him, I kept Mom isolated from the rest of the family during her final years, screening her calls and preventing visits, all while manipulating her into changing her will. He claims I forged Mom's signature on the handwritten will, that Mom never would have chosen to divide her estate so unequally, that everyone in the family knows I'm lying about how much care I actually provided. The accusations are so outrageous, so completely divorced from the truth, that I actually laugh before I can stop myself. That's insane, Frank, I tell him, pulling out my phone to show him the hundreds of photos I have of Mom and me together over the past 3 years. Doctor's office, waiting rooms, her garden where we planted tomatoes together, the two of us making Christmas cookies, her smiling face at her 74th birthday dinner that I organized and Brielle didn't attend. I show him text message chains spanning months where Mom and I discussed her health, her friends, her daily life. I offer to show him her medical records that list me as her primary caregiver and emergency contact. But Frank waves it all away dismissively, refusing to even look at the evidence. Brielle is heartbroken, he says, as if that's the only fact that matters. She's your sister and she's suffering, and instead of supporting her, you're destroying this family. You should be ashamed of yourself. After Frank leaves, slamming my apartment door hard enough to rattle the frames on my walls, I sit down at my laptop and discover that cousin Todd has posted something on social media. Todd is Lorraine's son, about my age, and we used to be close when we were kids. His post is carefully worded to avoid naming names, but it's obviously about me. It's amazing how greed can turn people into monsters. He's written, "When family betrays family over money, it shows their true character. Some people will do anything for $1, even hurt the people who should matter most." The post has 37 likes and 15 comments, most from extended family members I've known my entire life, all agreeing with him and adding their own vague condemnations of unnamed greedy relatives. I scroll through the comments feeling sick, recognizing names of aunts, uncles, and cousins who are clearly talking about me without having any idea what actually happened. Over the next few days, the social media attacks continue, and I realize Brielle has executed a brilliant character assassination campaign. Shay's told her version of events to the entire extended family, painting herself as the victim and me as the villain, and because she got to them first with her lies, they believe her without question. People I've known since childhood, family members who came to my college graduation and sent me birthday cards, are now posting passive-aggressive messages about family loyalty and greed. Nobody reaches out to me directly to ask for my side of the story. They just assume I'm guilty based on Brielle's accusations, and the weight of their collective judgment feels suffocating. Then my phone rings with a call from Diane, Mom's best friend of 40 years, a 70-year-old retired teacher who lived 3 houses down and had coffee with Mom every Sunday morning. "Harper, honey, I need to talk to you about what's going on," she says, and my whole body tenses, expecting another attack. But Diana's voice is warm and supportive, and the relief that washes over me is so intense I start crying. "Your mother knew exactly what she was doing with that will," Diane tells me firmly. "We talked about it at length. She was worried about Brielle's financial irresponsibility, about her tendency to burn through money, and she wanted to make sure you were taken care of after all the sacrifices you made. Don't let anyone tell you that will wasn't exactly what she wanted." Diane goes on to tell me that Mom had discussed the will with her several times over the months before her death, that Mom had specifically mentioned wanting to protect me from Brielle's potential reaction, that Mom knew Brielle would be angry but felt strongly that fairness didn't always mean equal distribution. "Your mother loved both of you," Diane says, but she wasn't blind to who her daughters were. She saw Brielle's patterns, the borrowing money and not paying it back, the credit card debt, the expecting handouts. And she saw your dedication, your selflessness, your genuine love. The will reflected reality, Harper, not manipulation. I'm crying so hard by the end of the call that I can barely thank Diane, but her words are the first comfort I've felt in weeks, the first validation that I'm not crazy, that I didn't do anything wrong, that Mom's decision was deliberate and thoughtful and fair. 6 weeks after Mom's funeral, a thick, cream-colored envelope arrives in my mailbox, my name written in elegant calligraphy across the front. Inside is the most elaborate wedding invitation I've ever seen, printed on heavy cardstock with gold foil lettering and 3 separate insert cards detailing the weekend's events. Brielle and Preston's wedding will be held at Castello di Amorosa in Napa Valley, a castle-style winery, over 3 days in late September. There's a welcome dinner on Friday evening, the ceremony and reception on Saturday, and a farewell brunch on Sunday. And every event sounds like it costs more than most people's entire weddings. Tucked behind the invitation is a small note card in Brielle's handwriting. Despite recent family difficulties, we hope you'll celebrate with us. Your presence would mean the world, even if your support hasn't. The passive-aggressive dig is so blatant, it would be funny if it wasn't so painful. For days, I wrestle with whether to attend, talking it through with Maya over multiple coffee shop sessions and sleepless 3 in the morning anxiety spirals. Part of me wants to be the bigger person, to show up and support my sister despite everything, to prove that I still care about her, even though she's treating me terribly. But another part of me knows it's a trap, that nothing good can come from spending a weekend surrounded by family members who think I'm a thief and a manipulator. Maya is firmly in the don't go camp. Harper, she's going to humiliate you, Maya warns. This invitation isn't an olive branch. It's bait. She wants you there so she can play the victim in front of everyone, so she can point to you and whisper about how you stole her inheritance while she's trying to celebrate her special day. But I don't listen, because despite everything, Brielle is still my sister, and I keep hoping we can somehow find our way back to each other. I RSVP yes with a +1 for Maya, who reluctantly agrees to come with me for moral support, and I send the response card back before I can change my mind. Brielle's reply comes via text 2 days later, just one word, received. Nothing else, no warmth, no excitement that I'll be there, just cold acknowledgement that she got my response. It should be another warning sign, but I ignore it along with all the others. 3 weeks before the wedding, I receive an email from the wedding planner, a woman named Simone, whose email signature lists her company as Elite Events Napa and includes several prestigious industry awards. The email is professionally written, but the content makes my jaw drop. Dear Harper, it reads, as a close family member of the bride, we're reaching out regarding the family contribution fund to help offset wedding costs. Several relatives have already made generous donations to help make Brielle and Preston's dream day a reality. We're suggesting a contribution of $50,000 from you, given your relationship as the bride's only sibling. Please let me know how you'd like to arrange payment. The email includes wire transfer instructions and a deadline for contribution of 10 days before the wedding. I stare at my computer screen in disbelief, reading the email 3 times to make sure I'm not misunderstanding. $50,000. They want me to give them $50,000 for a wedding I'm already attending as a guest. The audacity is breathtaking, and I immediately call Aunt Lorraine, figuring if several relatives have already contributed, she would be one of them. The call goes to voicemail, so I try Uncle Frank instead. He actually answers, and when I ask him about the family contribution fund, there's a long pause. What fund? He finally asks. Nobody asked me to contribute to the wedding. Is this about you trying to weasel out of splitting the inheritance properly? I hang up without responding, fury coursing through my veins, because now it's clear that this entire family contribution fund is completely fabricated, targeted specifically at me. I email Simone back with a polite but firm response. Thank you for reaching out, but I won't be making a financial contribution to the wedding. I've already sent a generous gift from the registry and look forward to celebrating with Brielle and Preston. I copy Brielle on the email, so she can't claim I went behind her back. The response comes not from Simone but from Brielle herself, and it arrives via phone call 2 hours later while I'm trying to work. She's screaming before I even finish saying hello, her voice so shrill and furious that I have to hold the phone away from my ear. You selfish, ungrateful bitch, she shouts, and I can hear Preston in the background telling her to calm down. You're ruining my wedding. You're being vindictive and petty, and you're disrespecting Mom's memory. All I asked for was help with my wedding. One thing, and you can't even do that after you stole my entire inheritance. I try to speak, try to inject reason into the conversation, but she won't let me get a word in. I gave you multiple chances to do the right thing, Harper. I tried to be understanding and patient, but you've shown me exactly who you are. If you don't help me, if you don't contribute what you should, then you're not welcome at my wedding. In fact, you're not welcome in this family anymore. The threat lands like a punch, knocking the air from my lungs. Brielle, please, I manage to say, but she cuts me off again. I'm done with you. Done. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. Don't bother showing up in September. Your invitation is revoked. She hangs up, and I sit in my office cubicle with tears streaming down my face while my coworkers pretend not to notice. I forward the entire email chain to Maya, along with a text. You were right. I'm not going to the wedding. That evening, I draft a formal message to Brielle, declining my invitation and wishing her well, keeping it brief and dignified, even though I want to scream. 2 days later, Brielle posts on social media a long, heartfelt message about toxic family members and the importance of protecting your peace and surrounding yourself with people who truly love and support you. She never mentions my name, but anyone who knows our family will know exactly who she's talking about. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is cut out people who are supposed to care about you, but instead only cause pain and drama, she writes. Planning my dream wedding has shown me who my real family is, and I'm grateful for everyone who stood by me during this difficult time. To those who choose material possessions over relationships, I hope you find happiness in your empty houses. The post gets 237 likes and 86 comments, most from friends and family, expressing support and love, telling her how brave she is for setting boundaries, praising her strength. I watch my entire extended family rally around Brielle in the comments. People I've known my whole life taking her side without question. And something inside me breaks. Even childhood friends from our hometown start commenting. People who've only heard Brielle's version of events asking if I'm okay or if they can help. I want to defend myself, to post my own explanation. But Maya and Diane both advise against it. Don't engage on social media, Maya says. It'll only make things worse. Anyone who matters will ask you directly. But nobody asks me directly. They just see Brielle's carefully crafted narrative of victimhood and assume it's true, and with each passing day, I feel more isolated and alone, cut off from the family I thought would always be there for me. 10 weeks after Mom's funeral, I'm eating dinner alone in my apartment when there's a knock on my door. A delivery driver hands me a large manila envelope that requires a signature, and the return address makes my stomach drop. Bradford and Associates, Attorneys at Law, Sacramento, California. My hands shake as I sign for it and close the door, and I stand in my kitchen for a full minute before I can bring myself to open it. Inside is a formal legal letter, 6 pages long, printed on heavy letterhead with multiple signatures and official seals. The first paragraph makes the room spin around me. Dear Miss Harper Sinclair, this office represents Miss Brielle Sinclair in the matter of the estate of Margaret Sinclair, deceased. We are writing to inform you of our client's intention to contest the validity of the purported last will and testament dated September 15th of the previous year. Our client has substantial evidence that said will was executed under undue influence and that the decedent lacked the requisite mental capacity to execute a valid testamentary instrument. The legal language is dense and intimidating, but the meaning is crystal clear. Brielle is officially challenging Mom's will in court. I sink into a chair and force myself to read the entire letter. The allegations are extensive and detailed, each one more outrageous than the last. They claim I isolated Mom from her family, controlled her access to outside information and relationships, manipulated her while she was physically weak and mentally vulnerable, and coerced her into writing a will that didn't reflect her true wishes. They suggest the handwriting might not even be Mom's, that I could have forged the document entirely. The demands section at the end is equally shocking. Brielle wants the house sold immediately, and the proceeds split 50-50 between us, plus $100,000 in additional compensation for emotional distress and financial losses she claims to have suffered as a result of my alleged manipulation. The total they're demanding comes to $475,000, nearly $500,000, and if they win, I'll lose everything Mom wanted me to have. The letter gives me 14 days to respond through legal counsel and warns that failure to respond will result in formal litigation. I read it 3 times, each time hoping I've misunderstood, but the words don't change. My sister is actually suing me. After everything, after all the accusations and the family drama and the social media attacks, she's taking me to court. I call Maya in a panic, barely coherent through my tears, and she comes over immediately. Together we research estate attorneys in Sacramento, and she helps me make appointments with 3 different lawyers for consultations. The first 2 are sympathetic but seem uncertain about my chances, hemming and hawing about how will contests can go either way depending on the judge and the evidence. But the third attorney, Judith Crawford, is different. She's 60 years old with steel gray hair, cut in a sharp bob and eyes that miss nothing. She reads through Brielle's legal threat while I sit in her office trying not to cry, and when she finishes, she looks up at me with an expression of disgust. This is a shakedown. Judith says bluntly, your sister has no case. None. But she's betting that you'll settle to avoid the stress and expense of going to trial. That's what bullies do. They file frivolous lawsuits hoping the defendant will just pay them to go away. She asks me detailed questions about my relationship with Mom, about the care I provided, about Mom's mental state in her final months. I show her everything. The photos, the text messages, the medical records listing me as Mom's primary caregiver, the birthday cards Mom sent me thanking me for my help, the neighbor who can testify to my constant presence. Judith takes notes on everything, and with each piece of evidence I provide, her confidence grows. Harry's what we're going to do, Judith says, her voice firm and reassuring. We're going to gather every shred of evidence that proves your mother was of sound mind, that you provided genuine care without ulterior motives, and that your sister was largely absent. We're going to show that this will represents exactly what your mother wanted. And then, we're going to make them regret filing this lawsuit. I hired Judith on the spot, signing a retainer agreement that requires a $10,000 deposit and agreeing to hourly billing that makes my stomach hurt. But I don't have a choice. I need someone in my corner who believes me and knows how to fight. The discovery process begins immediately. Both sides file requests for documents, and I spend weeks gathering every piece of paper, every email, every photo that might be relevant. I provide 3 years' worth of calendar entries showing my visits to Mom's house. I get statements from Mom's doctors confirming she was mentally sharp until the day she died. I compile phone records showing hundreds of calls between Mom and me, and only a handful between Mom and Brielle. Judith is thorough and meticulous, organizing everything into thick binders with color-coded tabs, building a fortress of evidence to protect Mom's wishes. Brielle's side produces their own evidence, but it's thin and obviously cherry-picked. A few text messages where Mom complained about feeling tired or overwhelmed, taken out of context to suggest mental decline. Declarations from Aunt Lorraine and Uncle Frank swearing that Brielle was a devoted daughter who called Mom regularly, despite phone records proving otherwise. A statement from one of Mom's former neighbors who barely knew her, claiming I seemed controlling. It's all circumstantial and easily refuted, but Judith warns me not to be overconfident. Juries can be unpredictable, she says. We need to be prepared for anything. The next step is depositions, where lawyers from both sides get to question witnesses under oath. Brielle's attorney is named Gordon Pierce, and when I look him up online, my heart sinks. He's known for aggressive tactics, for intimidating witnesses, for twisting words and creating doubt where none should exist. My deposition is scheduled for a Monday morning in November at Gordon Pierce's downtown office, and am so nervous I barely sleep the night before. Judith coaches me extensively on how to answer questions. Be brief, be factual, don't volunteer extra information. And if I don't know the answer to something, say I don't know rather than guessing. The deposition room is small and windowless, with a conference table, a court reporter, and cameras recording everything. Gordon Pierce is exactly as intimidating as his reputation suggests, a tall man in his 50s with cold eyes and a smile that never reaches them. For 6 hours, he questions me about every aspect of my relationship with Mom, and his questions are designed to make me look bad no matter how I answer. Isn't it true that you controlled your mother's finances in her final years? He asks, and when I explain that I helped her pay bills because her arthritis made writing checks difficult, he twists it to sound like I had access to her money. Did you prevent your mother from seeing your sister? He demands. And when I say no, Mom and Brielle simply weren't close, he implies, I'm lying. On and on it goes, Question after question designed to paint me as a manipulative gold digger who took advantage of a vulnerable old woman. Judith objects frequently, protecting me from the most improper questions, but Gordon gets enough on the record to make me look suspicious if you don't know the full context. By the time we break for lunch, I'm exhausted and shaken, my confidence in tatters. You're doing great, Judith assures me during the break. Hess throwing everything at you because he has nothing substantial. Just keep being honest and straightforward. The truth is, your best defense. The afternoon session is more of the same, but I've found my footing now, answering calmly and referring to the documented evidence whenever possible. When Gordon asks about the will itself, I'm ready. I explain that I was as surprised as anyone by Mom's decision, that I never asked her to leave me the house, that I would have been content with whatever she chose to do with her estate. I talk about Mom's clarity and purpose in her final months, about conversations we had where she explicitly discussed her reasoning for the will. Gordon tries to rattle me with rapid-fire questions and aggressive tone, but I stay calm, stay factual, stay honest. When the deposition finally ends after 6.5 hours, I'm emotionally drained but still standing. Judith is pleased with how it went, telling me I was a strong witness who didn't let Gordon bully me into saying anything harmful. The next day we receive notice that Gordon has also deposed Diane, Mom's best friend, and according to Diane, she destroyed his case with her testimony. She brought her own calendar showing years of coffee dates with Mom, proving Mom's social life wasn't isolated at all. She testified about conversations where Mom explicitly discussed her reasons for the will, undermining any claim that Mom lacked capacity or was unduly influenced. That lawyer tried to intimidate me, Diane tells me on the phone afterward, but I taught high school for 35 years. Hess going to have to do better than that. The legal fees are mounting horrifyingly fast. Between the retainer, discovery costs, deposition transcripts, expert witness fees for a handwriting analyst to confirm Mom wrote the will, and Judith's hourly billing, I've now spent $18,000 defending myself against my sister's baseless lawsuit. The irony isn't lost on me that I'm using money from Mom's inheritance to defend my right to that same inheritance. Every time I pay another legal bill, I feel sick, but Judith assures me it's necessary. If we win, and I believe we will, we can petition the court to make Brielle pay your legal fees, she says. Frivolous lawsuits have consequences. The thought of Brielle having to reimburse me is satisfying, but right now it feels like cold comfort, when I'm watching thousands of dollars disappear into legal proceedings that should never have been necessary in the first place. 3 months after Mom's funeral, Brielle's wedding weekend arrives, and despite being uninvited and genuinely relieved not to attend, I can't help obsessively checking social media to see what's happening in Napa. The first photos appear on Friday evening, posted by Brielle's bridesmaids and various family members. The welcome dinner at a fancy restaurant with views of the vineyards, elegantly dressed people holding cocktails and laughing at tables decorated with flowers and candles. Brielle looks stunning in a white rehearsal dinner dress, her arm around Preston, who looks every inch the successful venture capitalist in his expensive suit. The comments are full of congratulations and excitement, people gushing about how beautiful everything is and how perfect they are together. Saturday brings an absolute flood of wedding content. The ceremony photos show Castello di Amorosa in all its castle glory, the stone walls and towers creating a fairy tale backdrop for Brielle's elaborate white gown with what must be a 15-foot train. The guest count looks closer to 100 than the 75 originally mentioned, all dressed in formal attire that probably cost more than my car. I scroll through image after image of the reception. Towering floral centerpieces on every table, a band on a stage, a multi-tiered wedding cake that's almost architectural in its complexity, and a dance floor under strings of lights that make everything glow golden. The dinner menu, posted by several guests, features courses like pan-seared Chilean sea bass, filet mignon, and lobster risotto. As the evening progresses, photos show fireworks exploding over the castle, a spectacle that must have cost thousands of dollars alone. Maya sits beside me on my couch as I spiral through the photos, And she keeps pointing out details that make it clear this wedding cost far more than the $75,000 Brielle originally claimed. The flowers alone probably cost $15,000. The venue rental for a castle has to be astronomical. The food and alcohol for 100 guests at that level of luxury is at least $30,000. And the band, photographer, videographer, and fireworks add thousands more. This is easily a $120,000 wedding, Maya says, and she would know because she's been a bridesmaid in 5 weddings and has opinions about these things. Probably closer to 150 with everything I'm seeing here. There's no way she's hurting for money if she can afford this. But the most infuriating part comes when Brielle posts her own photos Sunday morning after the farewell brunch. She's changed into yet another designer dress, this one a cream-colored sundress that probably costs more than my monthly rent. And she's written a long, emotional caption. Despite facing betrayal and heartbreak this year, I married my soulmate surrounded by real family who truly love and support us, she writes. Losing my mother was devastating, but having her taken from me even before her death by someone I trusted made it so much worse. To everyone who showed up for us this weekend, who helped make our dream wedding a reality, who stood by us through the darkest times, thank you. You showed me what real family looks like. Blood doesn't make you family, loyalty does. She tags every single person who attended, probably 80 names, a deliberate public display of who's on her side. I'm very obviously not tagged, and the message is clear. I've been excommunicated. The comments section fills up within hours. Aunt Lorraine writes, "You deserve this after everything you've been through. Your mother would be so proud." Uncle Frank posts, "Beautiful wedding for a beautiful bride. Family first always." Cousin after cousin, friend after friend, all posting variations of support and love, all implicitly or explicitly condemning me without saying my name. I want to respond, to defend myself, to tell my side of the story. But I know it would only make things worse. Instead, I screenshot everything, at Maya's insistence, documenting Brielle's public narrative for potential use in the lawsuit. Then the honeymoon photos start appearing. Brielle and Preston flew to Bora Bora for 3 weeks, staying at a luxury resort in one of those overwater bungalows with glass floors and private infinity pools. The photos are stunning and clearly expensive. Spa treatments, private sailing excursions, gourmet meals with wine pairings, snorkeling in crystal clear water. Each photo is tagged with hashtags like blessed and family first and new beginnings. And the cognitive dissonance makes my head spin. This is the same woman who's suing me for $375,000, claiming she was financially hurt by not getting half of Mom's house. This is the same woman who demanded I fund her wedding because she supposedly couldn't afford her dream celebration. She's literally posting photos from a $10,000 minimum honeymoon, while her lawsuit claims I've caused her financial distress. I forward everything to Judith with a message. I think this helps our case. Judith's response comes within an hour. This helps our case significantly. It completely undermines her claims of financial hardship and shows malicious intent. She's not suing because she needs money. She's suing to punish you. The truth of that statement hits me hard, and I realize this was never really about the inheritance or the wedding. This is about Brielle's ego, about her inability to accept that Mom loved us differently because we behaved differently, about her need to rewrite history so she's the victim instead of the neglectful daughter who only cared about Mom when it was convenient. The social media onslaught continues for weeks as Brielle posts honeymoon photos and reminisces about the wedding. Each post feels like a deliberate jab at me, a public performance designed to show how happy she is without me, how much better her life is now that she's cut me out. But the cruelty of it, the way she's flaunting wealth while simultaneously claiming poverty in legal documents, makes my blood boil. I'm so close to giving up, to just offering a settlement, so I can end this nightmare and move on with my life. The constant stress is affecting my work, my health, my sleep. I've lost 12 pounds I couldn't afford to lose, and I have dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer can hide. Then Diane calls me one evening after I've spent an hour crying over the latest batch of honeymoon photos. "Harper, honey, Listen to me, she says in that firm teacher voice she uses when she means business. Your mother would be heartbroken if you gave in to this bullying. She made her choice for a reason, and she trusted you to be strong enough to defend it. Don't let Brielle's tantrum make you doubt what your mother wanted. Stand firm. Diana's words are exactly what I need to hear, and when I hang up, I feel something shift inside me. I'm done being defensive, done apologizing for something I didn't do wrong. Mom's will was fair and just and reflected the reality of who her daughters were. If Brielle wants to fight me in court, fine. I have truth and evidence on my side, and am going to make sure Mom's wishes are honored no matter what it costs me. 4 months after Mom's death, the legal battle has escalated into full-blown war, and during a strategy session in Judith's office, she suggests something I haven't considered: hiring a private investigator. We have all the evidence we need to defend against the will contest, Judith explains. But if we want to truly put this to bed and potentially go on offense, we need to understand Brielle's full financial picture and her pattern of behavior. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. She recommends Ramon Gutierrez, a former Sacramento Police Department detective who now runs his own investigation firm specializing in civil cases. I balk at the additional expense, but Judith insists it will be worth it. Trust me on this, Harper. There's more to your sister's story, and we need to know what it is. Ramon turns out to be a soft-spoken man in his 50s with graying hair and kind eyes that don't match his profession. He meets with me and Judith, listens to the entire saga, and then asks pointed questions about Brielle's employment history, spending habits, and past financial behavior. I tell him what I know, which honestly isn't much because Brielle and I haven't been close in years, but I mention that she's changed jobs frequently and that Mom had occasionally complained about Brielle asking for money. Ramon takes extensive notes and promises to have preliminary findings within 2 weeks. What he discovers in those 2 weeks is explosive. Ramon presents his initial report in Judith's conference room, laying out documents and timelines that paint a damning picture of my sister. First, there's her financial history. $17,000 in revolving credit card debt across 6 different cards, 2 cars repossessed in the past 5 years for failure to make payments, and a pattern of taking out personal loans that she struggles to repay. Her credit score is in the low 500s, which explains why she's had trouble getting approved for anything major. This is not someone who's financially responsible or who was victimized by an unfair inheritance. This is someone who's been living beyond her means for years. But Ramon doesn't stop there. He interviews Mom's neighbors under the guise of gathering information about the neighborhood for a real estate assessment, and what they tell him corroborates everything I've said. Phyllis Henderson, who's 81 and lived next door to Mom for 20 years, says, "That Harper girl was there like clockwork every Tuesday and Friday. Such a devoted daughter. She'd shovel the walk in winter, bring groceries, mow the lawn in summer. The other daughter, Brielle I think her name was, we barely saw her. Maybe twice in the last 2 years, and both times she didn't stay long." George Martinez, who lived across the street, tells Ramon essentially the same story, praising my dedication and barely remembering Brielle at all. The phone records Ramon obtains through legal channels tell an even starker story. In the year before Mom's death, Mom called me 183 times. She called Brielle exactly 12 times. The text message records show Mom texted me an average of 5 times per day. Everything from thinking of you, to can you pick up milk, to loved our visit yesterday. Her text history with Brielle shows maybe 15 messages total over the same period, most of them brief and perfunctory. This isn't just a difference in caregiving levels. This is evidence of 2 completely different relationships, one close and involved, the other distant and superficial. Then Ramon hits the jackpot. While going through boxes in Mom's storage unit that I haven't had the emotional strength to sort yet, he finds Mom's personal diary. It's a simple spiral-bound notebook, not fancy or elaborate, and she used it sporadically to record thoughts and feelings rather than daily events. But what's written there is pure gold for our case. Ramon brings it to me and Judith, and we read through it together, each entry making me cry, while simultaneously strengthening our legal position. March 15th. Brielle called asking for money again, $3,000 for some emergency she wouldn't explain. I said no, she hasn't called back in 6 weeks. One entry reads, July 22nd. Harper took me to the doctor today for my checkup. Everything's fine, just the usual aches and pains of getting old. I don't know what I'd do without her. She's sacrificed so much to help me. Her father would be so proud, reads another. The final entry, dated exactly 1 week before Mom's fatal heart attack, is the most powerful of all. September 8th. I've updated my will today with Mr. Henderson's help. Harper deserves the house. I've thought about this carefully and prayed about it, and I know it's the right decision. Brielle made her choices, chose her path, and while I love her, I can't pretend she was there for me when I needed her. Harper was. Every single day. I hope Brielle understands someday, but I must protect Harper's future. She's the one who'll need the security, and she's earned it with years of devotion. If Brielle is angry, she'll have to live with that. I'm at peace with my choice. Reading Mom's words from beyond the grave, seeing her thought process and her deliberate decision-making, makes me sob so hard I can barely breathe. This is proof, absolute undeniable proof, that Mom knew exactly what she was doing, but Ramon's investigation uncovers something even more shocking. Going through public records and loan documents that Brielle's own lawsuit had opened up to discovery, he finds that Brielle took out a $75,000 personal loan 3 weeks before Mom died. The loan documents show it was specifically for wedding expenses, with a 5-year repayment term at a horrific interest rate that suggests Brielle had few lending options due to her poor credit. This means Brielle planned and financed her elaborate wedding before Mom's death, expecting to get a large enough inheritance to pay off the loan comfortably. When the will gave her only $80,000 total instead of the $375,000 she'd apparently been counting on, her whole financial house of cards started to collapse. Ramon also tracks down Tessa Morgan, Brielle's college roommate from 15 years ago who's now a dental hygienist in San Jose. Tessa is initially reluctant to talk, but when Ramon explains it's for a legal case, she agrees to provide a statement. What Tessa tells him makes my sister look even worse. Brielle talked all the time about waiting for her inheritance. Tessa says in her recorded statement, "She told me her mom was loaded, that the house alone was worth at least $700,000, and that when her mom died, she'd get at least $500,000. She had it all spent in her head before your mom even passed. She was planning to pay off her debts, buy a new car, finance the wedding. She'd show me Pinterest boards of her dream wedding and say, 'This is what I'm doing when I get my money.' It was actually kind of creepy how much she thought about it." Ramon's final discovery brings all the pieces together. Through financial records that are part of the court discovery process, he determines that Preston's family, who are genuinely wealthy from real estate investments, paid for roughly 60% of the wedding costs. Preston's parents contributed $80,000 directly to the wedding vendors as a gift to their son and new daughter-in-law. This means Brielle's $75,000 loan plus Preston's family contribution covered the entire lavish celebration. She never actually needed money from me. The demand for wedding funding was pure manipulation, an attempt to guilt me into handing over money she'd already decided I owed her. When Judith and I finish reviewing all of Ramon's findings, the room is silent for a long moment. Then Judith smiles, a fierce, predatory expression that makes me glad she's on my side. "We have everything we need," she says. "Not only do we have an airtight defense against the will contest, but we have evidence of your sister's pattern of financial irresponsibility, her distant relationship with your mother's clear mental state and intent. And most damning of all, evidence that this lawsuit is purely retaliatory with no legitimate basis. They're going to drop this case when they see what we've got, and if they don't, we're going to destroy them in court." 5 months after Mom's funeral and 2 weeks after Ramon delivers his devastating findings, Gordon Pierce calls Judith to request a settlement conference. This is a standard part of litigation, one last chance to resolve the case before trial, but the timing tells me everything I need to know. Gordon has seen at least some of what we've discovered, and he knows his case is crumbling. The settlement conference is scheduled for a Wednesday afternoon at a neutral mediation center in downtown Sacramento, and I spend the entire morning before it feeling nauseous with anxiety. Judith has coached me extensively on how to behave, basically boiling down to stay calm, stay silent, and let her do the talking. The mediation center is designed to be calming, with soft gray walls and comfortable chairs, but nothing about this situation is calming. Brielle arrives with Preston, and this is the first time I've seen my sister face to face since the funeral 5 months ago. She looks good, expensive highlights in her hair, a designer pantsuit that probably cost more than my rent, and the enormous diamond ring on her finger catching the light. But there's something brittle around her eyes, a tightness in her jaw that suggests maybe things aren't quite as perfect as her social media would indicate. Preston won't make eye contact with me, and the tension between him and Brielle is palpable even before anyone speaks. We're shown into a conference room, and Gordon Pierce launches into an immediate speech about healing and family and finding a resolution that honors Mom's memory. It's all performance, and Judith sits back and lets him run through his prepared remarks. Then Brielle speaks, and am genuinely impressed by her acting ability. Tears well up in her eyes as she talks about feeling cut out of Mom's life, about the pain of losing her mother and then discovering she'd been essentially disinherited, about how much it's hurt to have our relationship destroyed over money. "I loved my mother," she says, her voice breaking convincingly. "Harper poisoned her against me. She manipulated her, isolated her, and turned her into someone I didn't recognize. All I want is what's fair. What Mom would have really wanted if she'd been thinking clearly." I bite the inside of my cheek hard enough to taste blood, forcing myself to stay quiet while my sister rewrites history right in front of me. Judith lets Brielle finish her performance, then calmly reaches for the accordion folder she's brought. "Before we discuss any potential settlement," Judith says, her voice professionally cool, "I think everyone should review the evidence we've compiled." She begins laying out documents on the conference table. Phone records showing the massive disparity in contact between Mom and each daughter. Neighbor statements praising my devotion and barely remembering Brielle. Medical records listing me as primary caregiver and emergency contact. Gordon's expression shifts from confident to concerned as the pile of evidence grows. Then Judith brings out the diary. She reads aloud several key passages, including Mom's explicit statements about her reasoning for the will, about Brielle asking for money repeatedly, about her disappointment in Brielle's absence during her final years. Brielle's tears dry up instantly, replaced by fury. "That could be fake," she snaps. "Harper could have written that herself to make me look bad." Judith doesn't even blink. "We had it analyzed by a certified forensic handwriting expert," she says, sliding the expert's report across the table. "The analysis confirms with 99.8% certainty that every entry was written by your mother. The ink dating confirms the entries were written when dated, not created recently. This is authentic, and it's admissible in court." Gordon calls for a 15-minute recess, pulling Brielle aside for a private conversation in the hallway, while I sit with Judith and try to calm my racing heart. Through the conference room's window, I can see heated discussion, Brielle gesturing angrily while Gordon appears to be trying to reason with her. Then Preston enters the hallway from wherever he's been waiting, and I watch his face as Gordon and Brielle explain something to him. His expression shifts from confusion to shock to what looks like anger, and suddenly he's the one gesturing angrily while Brielle tries to calm him down. When everyone returns to the conference room, the dynamic has shifted completely. Preston looks at Brielle like he's seeing her for the first time and doesn't like what he sees. Gordon looks professionally uncomfortable. Only Brielle maintains her aggressive posture, though I can see the cracks in her facade. Gordon makes the settlement offer. Brielle will drop the lawsuit if I pay her $150,000. "It's a generous compromise," Gordon says. "It avoids the uncertainty and expense of trial, allows both parties to move forward, and honors the family relationship." Judith doesn't even pretend to consider it. "Counteroffer," she says flatly. Miss Harper Sinclair will pay Miss Brielle Sinclair exactly $0. Furthermore, we will be filing a motion for sanctions based on this frivolous lawsuit, and we will seek full reimbursement of legal fees and costs. Additionally, we have evidence that calls into question whether this lawsuit was filed in good faith or as harassment and retaliation. She slides more documents across the table. Brielle's loan documents showing the pre-planned wedding, her credit report showing extensive debt, Tessa's statement about Brielle's mercenary expectations, evidence of Preston's family funding the wedding. Your client never needed money from Miss Harper Sinclair. She wanted revenge for not getting what she believed she was owed. This is the moment I've been waiting for, and I can't stay silent anymore. I look directly at Brielle for the first time, meeting her eyes across the conference table. I loved Mom. I say, and my voice is steady even though my hands are shaking. I cared for her because I loved her, not because I wanted her money. I spent 3 years of my life making sure she was safe and comfortable and never alone because that's what you do for someone you love. You abandoned her, Brielle. You couldn't even be bothered to call on her birthday. And now you want to profit from her death and rewrite history to make yourself the victim. I won't let you do that. Mom knew what she was doing when she wrote that will. She was protecting me from you, and she was right to do it. Brielle's carefully maintained composure shatters completely. She stands up so fast her chair tips backward, and she's screaming at me across the table. You're a thief, a manipulator. You stole everything from me, and now you're trying to destroy my marriage too. Preston reaches for her arm, but she shakes him off. I'll take this to trial. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. I'll destroy you, Harper. You'll have nothing when I'm done with you. Her face is flushed red, her eyes wild, and Gordon is trying to calm her down while Judith sits back looking satisfied because Brielle is showing her true colors for everyone to see. I stand up too, but I keep my voice calm and level. Take it to trial, I say. I have nothing to hide. Every word I've said is true, and I have evidence to prove all of it. But can you say the same, Brielle? Are you ready for a judge and jury to hear about your credit card debt, your repossessed cars, your loan you took out expecting to get Mom's money? Are you ready for Preston to learn everything about who you really are? I glance at Preston, whose face has gone pale, and I see the exact moment he realizes his new wife has been lying to him about more than just the lawsuit. Preston stands and physically pulls Brielle toward the door. We're leaving, he says tightly. And there's a fury in his voice that has nothing to do with me and everything to do with the woman he married 3 months ago. Brielle is still hurling insults as Preston drags her out of the conference room, her voice echoing down the hallway even after they're out of sight. Gordon Pierce stays behind for a moment, looking professionally defeated. I'll be in touch, he tells Judith. And we both know what that means. Hez going to recommend his client drop the case because Hez finally realized they have no chance of winning. After they leave, I collapse into my chair, adrenaline making my whole body shake. Judith packs up her evidence with calm efficiency, looking more pleased than I've ever seen her. That went better than expected, she says. They'll drop the suit within 2 weeks. Trust me. As we leave the mediation center and step out into the California sunshine, I feel something I haven't felt in 5 months. Hope. Maybe, finally, this nightmare is almost over. Judith's prediction is almost perfect. Exactly 13 days after the disastrous settlement conference, Gordon Pierce files a motion to voluntarily dismiss the case with prejudice, which means Brielle can never refile the same lawsuit again. The official reason given is after further review of available evidence. But everyone involved knows what really happened. They saw our evidence, realized they would lose spectacularly at trial, and decided to cut their losses before a judge could sanction them for filing a frivolous lawsuit. Judith immediately files a countermotion requesting that Brielle be ordered to pay my legal fees as the prevailing party in a baseless litigation, and 1 month later, a judge agrees to an award of $22,000. The victory should feel triumphant, but mostly I just feel exhausted and empty. Brielle will never actually pay the $22,000 because 2 weeks after the lawsuit is dismissed, she files for bankruptcy. Ramon's investigation had been right on the money about her financial situation. The wedding loan, the credit card debt, the legal fees to Gordon Pierce that she also can't pay, and apparently extensive purchases she made after the wedding, expecting to have inheritance money to cover them, have pushed her into complete financial collapse. The bankruptcy filing lists over $200,000 in total debt, and suddenly the desperateness of her lawsuit makes perfect sense. She wasn't just angry about the will, she was drowning and needed my money to save herself. Preston files for annulment 6 weeks after the lawsuit is dismissed, claiming fraud because Brielle hid the extent of her financial problems before they married. I learned this not through any family channels but through Maya, who heard it from a mutual acquaintance. Apparently, Preston's wealthy parents are furious that their son was deceived and that their $80,000 wedding gift went toward funding Brielle's charade. The fairy tale marriage that Brielle flaunted all over social media for 3 months crumbles in spectacular fashion, and while part of me feels satisfaction at the karma, another part just feels sad about the destruction of what's left of my family. Aunt Lorraine and Uncle Frank never apologize. They simply go silent, removing me from social media and apparently pretending I don't exist rather than admitting they were wrong. Cousin Todd quietly deletes his passive-aggressive posts, but he doesn't reach out to make amends. Most of the extended family follows suit, either unfriending me or just never mentioning the whole ugly situation again. The silence is its own kind of verdict, an acknowledgement that they backed the wrong horse, but lack the courage to actually apologize. I tell myself I don't need their apologies, that their behavior revealed who they really are. But the loss of family I've known my entire life still hurts in quiet moments. I start seeing a therapist named Dr. Patricia Chen to work through the trauma of the past 6 months, and it helps more than I expected. She helps me understand that Brielle's behavior wasn't really about me or even about the money, but about deep-seated issues with fairness and worthiness and a fundamental inability to take responsibility for her own choices. Your mother's will force Brielle to confront the consequences of her own actions, Dr. Chen explains. And instead of accepting that, she created an alternate reality where she was the victim and you were the villain. No amount of evidence could penetrate that narrative because it served a psychological need for her. Understanding doesn't make it hurt less, but it helps me stop taking it personally. I decide to keep Mom's house, honoring her wishes and her sacrifice to give it to me. The first few months, every room feels haunted by memories and legal battles, but slowly I start making it mine. I repaint the living room a soft sage green that Mom would have liked, replace the worn carpet in the bedrooms with hardwood floors, and create a memorial garden in the backyard with Mom's favorite roses and a small stone bench where I can sit and talk to her. The house transforms from a source of conflict into a genuine home, a safe space where I can heal and rebuild my life. Work becomes a refuge and a source of pride. During the lawsuit, I'd let my performance slip. But now I throw myself back into my marketing career with renewed focus. My dedication pays off when I'm offered a promotion to senior marketing manager with a substantial raise. And for the first time since Mom died, I feel financially secure and professionally valued. The promotion means I can afford to stay in Mom's house comfortably, paying the property taxes and maintenance without stress. Exactly the security Mom wanted for me. I start dating again, cautiously, and meet Nathan through a hiking group Maya dragged me to. He's a civil engineer, steady and kind, with an easy smile and a genuine interest in who I am. When I eventually tell him about the lawsuit and the family drama, expecting him to run for the hills, he just listens thoughtfully and then says, "Sounds like your mom was a smart woman who knew exactly which daughter to trust." His acceptance and understanding mean more to me than he probably realizes, and we take things slow, building something real based on honesty and mutual respect rather than any ulterior motives. 8 months after the lawsuit is dismissed, I receive an email from Brielle. I almost delete it without reading, but curiosity gets the better of me. The email is long and rambling, and it's not quite an apology so much as an explanation mixed with justification. She admits she was drowning in debt and panicked when Mom died without leaving her the financial windfall she'd been counting on. She claims she handled things wrong and maybe went too far with the lawsuit, but then pivots to blaming me for not understanding her situation and refusing to help family in need. There's no genuine remorse, no acknowledgement of the lies she told about me, no apology for turning the entire family against me or trying to steal my inheritance. It's a classic non-apology that takes minimal responsibility while still painting herself as the victim. I write a response, pouring out everything I've wanted to say to her for months, explaining in detail how much she hurt me and how wrong she was. Then I save it to my drafts folder and never send it. Some people aren't capable of understanding the harm they've caused, and some relationships aren't worth the energy it takes to salvage them. Instead, I block Brielle's email address, her phone number, and all her social media accounts. The finality of it feels surprisingly freeing, like closing a heavy door on a room I never want to enter again. Peace, learning, sometimes means letting go of people you once loved. Aunt Lorraine eventually sends a short, awkward email apologizing for any misunderstanding and hoping we can move past this difficult time. It's too little too late, and it carefully avoids admitting she was actually wrong, or that she hurt me with her accusations. I send back a brief response accepting her apology but explaining that I need distance from extended family for my own well-being. I don't close the door completely, but I make it clear that superficial peace isn't enough to rebuild trust. Relationships that matter require genuine accountability, and Lorraine's carefully worded non-apology doesn't meet that standard. On the first anniversary of Mom's death, I visit her grave with an armful of fresh tulips, her favorite spring flower. Nathan offers to come with me, but this feels like something I need to do alone. I sit on the grass beside her headstone, reading the simple inscription, Margaret Rose Sinclair, beloved mother and friend, and I talk to her the way I used to talk to her in her kitchen over cups of tea. I thank her for the house, for the security she wanted me to have, for knowing me well enough to protect me even after she was gone. I tell her I understand now why she made the choice she did, that I'm not angry anymore about the burden of defending it, that I would make the same choice in her position. You were right about everything, Mom. I say to the headstone, tears streaming down my face but my voice steady. You knew Brielle's character, you knew what would happen, and you made sure it'd be okay anyway. Thank you for that. Thank you for seeing me, for valuing what I gave, for not taking it for granted. I miss you every day, but I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. I'm building a good life in the home you gave me, and I'm going to make you proud. A breeze rustles through the cemetery trees, and I choose to believe it's Mom's way of saying she's already proud, that she's been watching over me through all of this, that she knows I did my best to honor her wishes. The lessons from this nightmare year have reshaped how I understand family, love, and self-worth. I've learned that not all family deserves access to your life, that blood relation doesn't automatically equal loyalty or love, and that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from toxic people, even when they share your DNA. I've learned that money doesn't create character, it reveals it, exposing who people really are when the stakes get high and their true priorities become impossible to hide. Brielle always had these traits, the entitlement and the financial irresponsibility and the willingness to lie and manipulate, but the inheritance brought them into sharp focus where no one could deny them anymore. I've learned to set boundaries and maintain them even when people try to guilt or pressure me into backing down. I've learned that standing up for myself doesn't make me selfish, that I can be kind without being a doormat, that I can love people and still refuse to let them hurt me. I've learned that integrity isn't about what you do when people are watching, but about who you are when you're alone with difficult choices. I kept my integrity throughout this ordeal, never stooping to Brielle's level of lies and manipulation, and that matters more than any financial victory. Most importantly, I've learned that Mom's final gift wasn't just the house. It was the lesson in self-worth, in boundaries, in the difference between genuine love and conditional acceptance. She showed me through her will that it's okay to acknowledge reality, to recognize that not all relationships are equal, to reward devotion and protect those who actually show up. She taught me that fairness isn't always about equal distribution, but about just distribution based on actual behavior and contribution. Those lessons are worth more than any house, more than any amount of money, because they've fundamentally changed how I move through the world. Nathan and I talk about the future sometimes, carefully, with the understanding that we're both in this for real if we decide to move forward. He asks if he'd ever consider starting a family of my own, and I'm surprised to realize the answer is yes. After everything that's happened, after seeing the worst of what family can be, I still believe in the possibility of creating something better. I think about raising children with the values Mom taught me, the integrity and hard work and genuine love, while consciously breaking the toxic cycles that infected Brielle's understanding of family. I imagine teaching my someday children that love is shown through actions, not words. That family is about commitment, not convenience. That worth isn't measured in dollars, but in character. The irony isn't lost on me that Brielle destroyed her life chasing money she never actually needed. If Shed accepted, moms will gracefully. Shed still have the $80,000 from the bequest, Preston's family fortune, a stable marriage, and a relationship with her only sister. Instead, her greed and entitlement cost her everything. Her inheritance went to bankruptcy lawyers and debt collectors. Her marriage fell apart, her reputation is ruined, and she's completely alone. She had a chance at genuine happiness and threw it away because it wasn't enough, because she couldn't stand that I got more, because her ego mattered more than her relationships. It's a cautionary tale about the price of envy and the destruction that comes from measuring your worth by comparing yourself to others. Meanwhile, my wealth isn't found in the house's market value, but in the peace I've finally achieved, the integrity I maintained throughout impossible circumstances, and the real relationships I've built with people like Maya, Diane, and Nathan who showed up when it mattered. I live in a home filled with happy memories and Mom's enduring love. I have work I'm proud of and a future I'm excited about. I have self-respect and clear boundaries, and the knowledge that I did the right thing even when it was incredibly hard. Those things are priceless in a way Brielle will never understand, because she's spent her whole life chasing external validation instead of internal peace. On quiet evenings, I sit in Mom's house, my house now, cooking recipes she taught me with her apron tied around my waist, and photos of us together covering the walls. The house doesn't feel haunted by the legal battle anymore. Instead, it feels blessed by Mom's foresight and filled with the possibility of new memories. I've created a life here that honors her sacrifice, a life built on the foundation of her love and wisdom. I whisper to her sometimes, especially when I'm struggling with something or making a big decision, and I swear I can feel her presence, her approval, her pride in who I've become. My personal mantra, developed through therapy and hard-won experience, has become my anchor. I am enough. I did enough. I owe no one my peace. I repeat it when guilt tries to creep back in, when I wonder if I should have handled things differently, when I catch myself second-guessing the boundaries I've set. The truth I've learned is that some people will never be satisfied, no matter what you give them or how much you sacrifice, and that's their burden to carry, not yours. I can't fix Brielle or make her understand or force her to take responsibility. All I can do is live my own life with integrity and protect the peace I've fought so hard to achieve. The ultimate freedom I've found is in living authentically without guilt, in knowing I honored Mom's wishes despite tremendous pressure to do otherwise, in standing firm when everyone around me said I should compromise. I sleep well at night knowing I did the right thing, and no amount of money could buy that kind of peace. In my quieter moments, when I'm sitting in the memorial garden watching the roses Mom and I planted together bloom in the California sunshine, I hear her voice in my memory saying what she'd say if she were here. "You did the right thing, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. Now go live the beautiful life you've earned." So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm living fully and honestly, surrounded by people who actually care about me, building something real and lasting in the home Mom gave me. The lawsuit is over, the family drama has faded to background noise, and I've emerged stronger and wiser from the whole terrible experience. Brielle may have tried to destroy me, but instead she just revealed her own character while proving that Mom's assessment of both her daughters was absolutely accurate. In the end, Mom's will wasn't just a legal document distributing property. It was her final act of love, her way of taking care of me one last time, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure her sacrifice meant something. So, that's my story. Have you ever had to deal with family members who felt entitled to something that wasn't theirs? Or been accused of things you didn't do by people who should have trusted you? Drop your experiences in the comments below because I know I'm not alone in dealing with family drama over inheritance. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It really helps me know these stories matter to people. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel because I share real stories about real family situations that so many of us face but don't always talk about openly. Share this video with anyone who's going through something similar, because sometimes just knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. I hope you find your own peace, whatever battles you're fighting, and remember that standing up for yourself is never selfish when you're protecting something that matters. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you in the next story.